I fought in a gigantic war. This is a server that I set up a few months ago with my friends, and from what has happened so far, it has been quite an adventure. You see, this server is weird and has many rules, but those rules make it fun and entertaining. The server is a giant survival island, and you can only claim land and build bases on the island. You can go to the mainland, but only for resources. The other rules are all war related, because the server was created so different factions and teams will set off to different parts of the island to start kingdoms and empires. But before we start, I must let you all know that this is all unscripted. I have just turned the events that have happened into a story. Also, this video took a long time to make, so please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Also, I have a goal of hitting 100 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you subscribe and put your Minecraft username in the comments of this video, we will put your name on our subscriber wall in our city of Endor. With this, let's set off on our third journey, on the land of Ataraxia. We start in our villager room. We have a huge cargo crisis on our hands, with someone breaking in and stealing lots of our stuff. We later find out that it is Raccoon stealing our stuff, an old ally who joined a new nation called Kermerian. Shortly after, we found out he was a spy for our old enemies. Our nation, Endorian, demanded to be given our stuff back. Kermerian refused to give us our stuff back, and soon the Endorian Navy was ordered to hunt down and kill Raccoon. Soon, Raccoon was killed, but F2N, the leader of Kermerian, rushed over to pick up Raccoon's stuff. Once he arrived, a battle quickly began, and F2N eventually got away, and the Endorian Navy rushed back to Endorian waters. Shortly after, we got a notification in the Discord war channel. The Kermerians had declared war on us. We declared war right after the Kermerians did, because this mainly all started because one of their members was stealing lots of our stuff, and the people in power in Kermerian allowed him to do it. We quickly began mobilizing our armies and getting ready for a full-scale invasion of Kermerian. Since the end of the survival war, the first war of the server, which us, the Endorian Empire, won, we had occupied the whole server. Once F2N joined the server, he turned the Apis territory in the east into the Kermerian Empire, which was now its own independent state. Us, the Endorian Empire, still occupied the Contigo territory in the south, which bordered Kermera, unlike mainland Endoria. We moved our armies on the border and pushed into Kermerian territory. Soon, Kermerian forces met up with our armies and started to attack our forces. So our armies began digging into defensive positions. We began digging trenches to hold the line so the Kermerians could not advance. In our trenches, our soldiers held the line until more reinforcements could arrive. Once more reinforcements arrived, we fired back, much more, at the Kermerians. The Kermerians were then forced to retreat all the way back to their main defenses, around 50 blocks away, allowing our armies to advance further. Once the armies met up again, the two sides built trenches and began a long and hard stalemate. The Battle of the Trenches, the first battle of the Great Guerrilla War, was an Endorian victory. We had pushed into Kermerian territory and had captured a small border town. The front was now a hard stalemate. It's now time to think of our next move. My nation, Endoria, knew how powerful Kermera had become, and we feared that we did not have the manpower to fight this war. So as I, the king of the Endorian Empire, I called Congress, and we began many meetings on how we can win this war. We soon recruited Camp Elias, a very good PvPer who was up to fight the Kermerians, since they kicked him out of his home, Normeg, the place where our old allies from the survival war lived. At this time, as well, 2 new players joined the server, the Green Boy and Mr. Noob. The two decided to settle in Endoria, and quickly enlisted into the Endorian army. Even with all these new recruits, we still thought we could not fight this war. F2N, the leader of Kermera, was extremely powerful. He had stacks on stacks of diamonds, iron, and golden apples. And according to our spy Archan PB, they had 8 god sets. And they even had the only god apple that had been found so far on the server. The Kermerians also had lots of members that were willing to fight for the nation. Our nation Endoria knew even with all these new recruits, and more supplies arriving from the secret Endorian military bases, that it was still not enough to fight Kermera. So I came up with an idea, a dangerous idea, that could possibly destroy our nation. But if they fought against Kermera with us, we would surely win the war. It was a terrible, but great idea at the same time. So I met with my second in command, Fake Nest, for a meeting that would decide the future of the server.
Fake Nest. War.
I can see that.
Yes, and it doesn't, I don't think that we're going to be able to stand a chance against Kermera. So, with just what we have right now, even with the new recruits, still not enough. F2N is extremely powerful, and he will no doubt invade us and destroy everything that we love and have. Which is why I came up with an idea. So what I have thought of is that what We bring back Glorangio and Pulu. We have Glorangio's stuff. That's the reason why he quit the server, is because we have it, because we killed him at the Battle of Yoursub. If we give it back to him, I believe that he will join us, and we'll make him sign a peace treaty in order for him to get his stuff back, and yeah.
You're saying that you want to bring back someone that took over 97% of the server.
But think about it, you know it too. F2N is extremely powerful, and along with Over Raccoon and Fine Asher, he's just even more powerful. Even Camp Elias is not powerful enough to take on F2N. We need somebody with all the resources and strength to do it, and I believe Glorangio and Pulu Gaming will definitely provide that. And it's a dangerous idea,
Alright then.
but I think it'll work.
Then it's settled.
Alright, I'm gonna send him a note and see how it goes.
Glorangio, our greatest enemy, had joined us. He did it to get his stuff back, but he was now on our side. A few days later, Glorangio rejoined the server, and rejoined Boa, and took control of the nation. The following day, Glorangio, Fake Nest, and myself met at the Yoursub capital for the exchange for Glorangio's stuff. He had signed the treaty, and he was now on our side. In exchange, it was now time to return his armor. I hesitated for a second. If I did this, it could destroy the server. But if I didn't, F2N and the Kermerians would surely send the server into chaos and ruin. Knowing this, I began throwing the armor back to him. Glorangio now had his stuff back, and was ready for war. Right after Glorangio's stuff was returned, Glorangio, as the Boa Republic, declared war on the Kermerian Empire. War was now total. This was now a full server-wide conflict. Now that Glorangio was our ally, we showed him our villagers so he can improve his gear and get more weapons for the battles to come. But as this was happening, Fake Nest and I got a message from Sampling Goat and the Green Boy. Yoursub was under attack. F2N and a Kermerian army had landed at Yoursub to loot the city and kill as many Endorians as they could for more armor and weapons, and maybe even capture the city. As we see from Green Boy's POV, F2N and the Kermerians massacred the Yoursub civilians. Some killed even had nothing to do with the conflict. Sampling Goat was spawn killed over 50 times by F2N and had lost everything. An Endorian army showed up to the city as soon as possible. And chased off the Kermerians. The Kermerians then retreated back to their waters in the east. Well, not all the Kermerians, as we found a lost over raccoon in the streets of Yoursub.
I mean, do you guys have to use any other type of...
Oh, hi, Eddie. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Eddie.
I take his armor!
Stop! Actually, bro, I'm not...
I'm using armor!
Oh, get away from me! You actually kill me and I'm gonna, like, please. Stop! I didn't mean to fight Please don't. Don't imagine so weird. Please.
Oh.
Please, no.
That's what you get for killing our innocent civilians.
You were so weird.
The Battle of the Seas was an Endorian victory, but we had suffered heavy losses. Yoursub was heavily raided. A large amount of the Yoursub population had been massacred, and one of our best soldiers had lost everything, and troop morale was at a low. So the battle felt much more like a defeat than a victory. The next day, we began planning our next move on the Kermerians. We knew that now we had the manpower and materials to fight this war. We began planning our next invasion attempt on the Kermerian Empire. The front on the Boa-Contigo-Kermerian border was in a hard stalemate now that the Kermerians had built up much more defenses. So breaking the stalemate would be a long, hard-fought battle that we did not want to endure. So we began focusing to the south. The Kermerians had left the Apus Peninsula, poorly defended, and there was barely any military action there. So we laid out a plan to capture the Apus Peninsula, then invade the rest of Kermera. Here was the plan. You see, there were some small islands off the coast of the Apus Peninsula that had no buildings or defenses on them. Therefore, the plan would be to capture these small islands and then use them as a launching port to capture the Apus Peninsula. We prepared a force and quickly sent it to capture these islands. The landing was successful, with our naval forces capturing the islands with no resistance. We set up a camp and prepared our forces to capture the Apus Peninsula the very next day. It was the next day. We had gathered a very large part of the Endorian and Boa army and navy. We launched our troops and landed at Normeg, where a poorly supplied Kermerian army tried to resist our invasion as best as they could. It was at this time that our spy, Archan PB, and his friend Anders, who had recently joined the server and joined Archan PB to spy on the Kermerians for us, revealed that they were working for Endorian, and they joined us for the fight. The Kermerians soon retreated back to their defenses in mainland Kermera, leaving the rest of the Apis Peninsula to fall to Endorian and Boa forces. The Battle of Normeg was an Endorian-Boa victory. We had now captured the Apis Peninsula and began sending supplies and more troops to the islands in the peninsula to get ready for our next step, our invasion of the Kermerian heartland. This time, the Endorian and Boa forces would be separate. The Boa forces would be in the northwest, pushing into Kermera, and the Endorian forces would be in the south and the southwest. The ultimate aim was to capture the rest of Kermera and the Kermerian capital of Kermit. After this, the Kermerians would most likely sue for peace, and we would win the war. As easy as that. Everyone agreed with these plans, and we prepared for the next day. The day that would change the course of history. The next day, it was time. Time for the invasion of the Kermerian heartland. Our troops were all set, ready to end this war.
Today, at the end of our hope, at the end of our time, we have not only chose to believe in our nation, but also in its people. Now, today there is not a man or a woman that stands alone. It is only us and the Kermerian Empire. Not today. Today we face the nation that is at our door, and we reverse the apocalypse! Today, as a nation, we will give them no mercy.
The Titan Squad.
I had to pause
Titan Squad is getting ready.
Everything was going to plan, but then the worst happened. Since the beginning of the war, the Kermerians had been searching for our villagers, which were now in a different spot. These villagers were where over half of the Endorian Boa military supplies was being obtained, and the Kermerians knew that if they could find these villagers and destroy them, it would cripple the Endorian supply chains, and perhaps force Endoria and Boa to surrender. Therefore, the Kermerians, Overakun in particular, spent hours every day searching for our villagers. And one day, they found them. I was unable to record this event, so I will describe it the best I can to you. I was in a Discord call with Overraccoon and Fake Nest right before the invasion of the Kermerian heartland was about to happen. Overraccoon would not tell us what he was doing. All of a sudden, Fake Nest and I heard the death sound of a villager. Fake Nest and I knew what had just happened. Overraccoon then revealed that he had found our villagers and was killing them all. Fake Nest and I charged all the way over to the other side of the island, the Mojave region, where our villagers were located. Fake Nest was unable to catch up to me while I was speeding very fast all the way over there. I saw Overraccoon's name in the ground, and I began digging down to catch him. But I was unaware that Overraccoon had tricked me into falling into a trap. As I was digging down, I got stuck in water, and Overraccoon came from below and began killing me. Where he was hitting me, I was unaware of at the time. And when I did find out where he was, it was too late. Overraccoon had killed me. I had lost a gigantic amount of military supplies. Fake Nest and Blorangio then arrived and chased away Overraccoon, who now had all of my stuff. We checked our villagers, and it was awful. Overraccoon had killed 70% of our villagers. The few that we had left had to be saved. At this time, the whole server began to get online, and the news soon spread that the king of the Endorian Empire had been killed. I had lost my main armor and weapons, so I was forced to get out my spare armor set, which was not as good. I had also lost my trident, and I didn't have another one. You see, other than elytras, tridents are the best way to get around the island. And tridents were needed for our navy to get around the island, but also perform a new form of warfare that us Endorians had created: trident warfare. Trident warfare is extremely effective, especially on enemies that are in a boat or don't have a trident themselves. Trident warfare requires the attacker to put all force and ram into an enemy in a certain position extremely quickly. It slows the enemy down and in many cases can kill them. You have seen me perform trident warfare before, many times. Since Overraccoon had killed me, and we had no more extra tridents, I was extremely slow moving compared to everyone else. So I was now in a very weak position. Right after I put on my spare god set, I was informed that F2N was attacking Endor, our original capital city, and a very important town to the Endorian Empire. I rushed over, and F2N was firing harming arrows on the shores. Eventually, F2N swam away. That was a close one. Losing the city of Endor could mean losing the whole empire. I began heading back to the Mojave region to begin to evacuate the villagers, because the Kermerians were on their way to attack. Blorangio and I rushed to making a tunnel further underground and in the opposite direction from the Kermerians. Now that the Kermerians knew where the villagers were, they began sending naval teams to try to capture the area and the villagers. But thanks to my head general Fakenest and his team, they were able to keep the Kermerians away while Blorangio and I dug the tunnel. After about an hour, Blorangio and I successfully moved our villagers about 500 blocks away and further underground. Hopefully, they will now be safe. I emerged from the new temporary hidden base and headed back towards Endor to meet up with our armies. I had arrived, and to my shock, there was a whole gigantic army waiting for me. Players from every corner of the server had arrived to help. It turned out, while Blorangio and I were building the tunnels, the Kermerians had attacked right above us. But Fakenest, the Green Boy, and Mr. Noob, and many more, fended off the attackers and turned Green Boy's house, which was in the middle of the battleground, into a fortress. Everyone was there. Sampling Goat, Archan PB, Anders, Blorangio, and even Camp Elias, possibly the best PvPer on the server. We all geared up, and with the largest army Ataraxia had ever seen, we arrived at the Eastern Front, where our forces there had surrounded the Kermerian Empire's capital, Kermit. Now, it was time to finish the Kermerians once and for all. With the combined power of Endoria, Boa, and Apis, we attacked. We entered the city, and we quickly killed Fine Asher. Then Blorangio, despite orders not to destroy anything, he did not listen. F2N's house and much of Kermit was destroyed by Blorangio. F2N was furious. F2N purled all the way to the Endorian Empire's capital, Yoursub. F2N then burned the city to the ground and killed anyone left in the city. Camp Elias and I then got back to Yoursub as quickly as we could. But it was too late. Yoursub was destroyed. Practically burned to the ground. We were absolutely furious. We spotted F2N and charged after him. Our army had landed a few hits on him, but he quickly purled away toward corruption. We had not seen Over Raccoon yet. He was most likely hiding to defend secret bases, if found. Our armies spread out and searched all around the island for F2N. But every time we found him, he would attack for a few seconds, then purl away when help arrived. F2N had begun guerrilla warfare, and it was extremely effective. As he went all across the island, he spread our army out and took us out, one by one. Our first loss, Camp Elias. F2N had lured Camp Elias and Mr. Noob into the water just off the coast of F2N's operation, where they were very susceptible. F2N then got in a boat and shot Camp Elias and Mr. Noob to death with harming arrows. It was a bloodbath. Our greatest soldier was lost, along with 2 god sets. We could not believe it. F2N then continued using his guerrilla tactics and took out Sampling Goat, Anders, and almost all of our dog army. Nearly half of our army gone, just like that. With our army now much weaker and realizing what F2N was doing, we all met up in the newly captured Kermerian Empire capital, Kermit. There, we set up a mini base to defend ourselves. We began thinking of a new plan and realized that we were not going to win this war with our current plan. We came up with a plan that Fake Nest would return to Yoursub to defend what was left of it. Archan and myself would head for the XP farm near Yoursub, where we could make more Riptide Tridents to get the Navy back up and running, while everyone else, Florangio and the Green Boy, would stay in Kermit. We set out, and after 30 minutes of killing spiders, we were able to obtain 3 more tridents. Then, all of a sudden, F2N attacked Kermit with Florangio and the Green Boy inside. The Green Boy was able to escape and return to his house, where he would be safe, while Florangio began a long and brutal fight with F2N. Florangio barely escaped with his life and met up with the remaining army. Fake Nest, Archan, and myself at what remained of Yoursub. Florangio had fought a long and hard battle with F2N, he told us. It was nothing like he had ever seen before, he remarked. Even Florangio, a skilled PvPist and a master of potions and harming arrows, could not even get close to killing F2N. Our troop morale was extremely low. We searched the remains of Yoursub to see if there was anything that we could use to help fight F2N, but there was nothing. Along with destroying the city, F2N had taken everything he worked so hard to get. Our god sets were half broken, and we were almost all out of food. Yet, we prepared to keep fighting. We got in position and waited. Soon, F2N arrived. He was trying to swim up a waterfall near the Yoursub capital. I began fighting F2N with our trident warfare tactic. It looked like F2N was getting low. But all of a sudden, he escaped the fight and went into hiding again. This was getting really annoying. Every time we got F2N even near low, he would suddenly escape. We got into position again and waited. All of a sudden, he arrived again He was down near the Yoursub dock. Our army charged down the main Yoursub road and began the battle that would decide the future of Ataraxia.
I'm heading over.
Got eyes. Well, be careful, Liam, be careful.
I see.
Dylan, Dad, what happened to my totem?
You're what?
What happened to my totem? No, I didn't pop it, it was just glitched.
Alex, I'm kidding. How? I haven't done this for like
Oh my god.
Oh, I fell down that dumb hole. Oh!
The Battle of Yoursub was an Endorian boa defeat. We had lost. Archan and my right-hand man, Fake Nest, both slaughtered. I was forced to combat Log. If I did not do that, we would have lost everything. Glorangio escaped. He would return to the villagers to defend them and gear up again, while I remained offline. I got in a call with Glorangio, Fake Nest, and Camp Elias. We talked about everything that had just happened, and we knew what we had to do. With the Kermerians capturing and destroying the Endorian capital of Yoursub, and the Kermerians' recapture of their capital Kermit and the Apis Peninsula, we agreed there was only one thing left to do. May 21st, 2022. Yoursub is in ruins. The citizens have fled to the mountains to stay until it is safe to return. The villagers, the government, and the military have been evacuated to a new secret base. The rest of the server is in chaos. Governments have collapsed. Lawlessness is spreading. Uprisings and riotings have begun in many places across the server. The server is practically destroyed, and the server will never fully recover from these wounds. The leaders have met in corruption. The terms of surrender are set. The Kermerian Empire is to annex the entire Contigo region. Endorian Boa waters are to be patrolled by the Kermerian Navy for a month. Yoursub is to be under Kermerian occupation for 2 weeks. The terms are harsh, and the Endorian people will suffer even more. The Kermerians had better tactics than us. Our armies were spread out, slow and weak. Not even the combined power of Endoria and Boa could stop the Kermerians. We will do better. We will return to bring back the peace, hope, and bring Ataraxia into a new age. But until then, we hide and get ready for the fight of our homeland. We will return. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the 3rd episode of Ataraxia. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Anyway, I have to get ready for our great return. See y'all in the next one.